Hey y'all, today we're making dehydrated cheese and cheese powder. Okay, so I am going to use my silicone trays for this, and I'm also going to use some cheesecloth. Now this is just a piece I'm going to cut, and then I had some other pieces that were cut. So we're just kind of going to make this work. That's what we're going to do. I looked for a lot of videos. Y'all know that I told y'all way back when that we were going to dehydrate our own cheese. You know, I was working on it and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to show y'all how to do something until I figure it out, right? So I watched a lot of videos. You know, you try a lot of things. This is what ended up working for me. Like I said, there are very few videos that I could really find that gave a lot of the details about dehydrating cheese. Most channels that I looked at said that they don't even attempt it because it doesn't work, it's too hard to do, whatever. But I did not let that stop me. I was determined that I was going to figure out how to dehydrate cheese and make it work. So this is the way that I came up with. So I'm going to obviously talk you through everything. So again, what I'm doing, because cheese is greasy, okay, when you know, like if you melt cheese, if you eat pizza, and you know, obviously it has cheese on it, and you know how it'll get kind of greasy because cheese is greasy. It's just oily. It's got a lot of fat in it. So you're going to need something to catch that, because obviously the fat isn't just going to evaporate and, you know, disappear. So we had to figure out a way to catch all of the oil that's going to come out of the cheese as we dehydrate it. So what I decided to do is we're going to do pre-shredded bagged cheese. We are also going to do some cheese that we shred ourselves. The one video that I found that did have a lot of good information on it used only bagged cheese. They didn't do any freshly grated cheese. And, you know, she was saying like she didn't have a lot of issue with like the oil building up and stuff like that. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it because I know that works, but I also want to see if I can make cheese that I shred myself work. And, you know, make them work in the same way, if that makes sense. You know, dehydrate them the same way to make them not greasy. Okay, hopefully y'all know what I'm talking about. So anyway, like I said, I'm not doing a very large amount in this video. Because like I said, I just wanted to kind of show y'all the process of how to do this. And I wanted to make sure, like I said, that it was going to work. This is the first time that I've dehydrated cheese. You're seeing it right here in this video. And, so I didn't want to do too much on the offhand chance it didn't work. So what I did, like I said, is I wrapped my silicone trays. Most people, or the few people that I saw do this, didn't use a silicone tray, but I thought if it's going to be greasy, I don't want that to leak down through my dehydrator, if that makes sense, because I wasn't sure how much oil it was going to produce, right? So anyway, I decided that I would use the silicone mats and I would wrap them in cheesecloth. Now, I could have doubled up the cheesecloth, and I probably will the next time I do this. But I also saw where people said they use paper towels, and that also works. But I just thought, instead of wasting a bunch of paper towels, I will use this cheesecloth. See what I mean? I have like pieces and parts, and I'm just trying to make them fit. And that way I'm not throwing a bunch of stuff away. I can just wash these. And as a matter of fact, what I did with these when I finished using them is, instead of like throwing them in the washing machine and getting like the smell of like the washing powder and stuff on them, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes if I like wash in the washing machine things like this, then everything tastes like washing powder. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So anyway, what I did is I just hand washed them. I hand washed them in the sink with Dawn dishwashing liquid, and they were fine. I just let them air dry, and they were good to go. Now, are they stained? Yes. But that's okay, because the only thing I'm going to use this for is for cheese anyway. So anyway, I know y'all are probably like, well, you shut up and just dehydrate the cheese. But because I couldn't find a lot of videos on this, like I said, I wanted to make sure that I give y'all all the details that I have and the rationale behind why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. So, okay, I've got my shredder. Y'all know I love this shredder. And I'm going to grate some sharp cheddar cheese. And, okay, so when I do this again, I will not use this shredder. And let me tell you why. You're going to see it along the way and everything. When you grate cheese with a shredder like this, your cheese comes out kind of curly, okay? What I found when I dehydrated this cheese is that, yes, the fresher cheese does get oilier, I guess because of that powdery coating that you already have on pre-shredded cheese, kind of maybe soak some of that up. And I did see somewhere where somebody talked about coating fresh cheese, but I didn't want to do that. So if, you know, you can look up maybe a way to do that if you want to. I did not do that in this video, but I have, you know, like I said, I did see somewhere where somebody did it. But what happened, because this cheese is curly, is it kind of made little bowls to trap the grease in. Okay, now it turns out fine. It works out, but it does do that. So if you're concerned about that, use just a regular cheese grater where when you grate your cheese, it comes out straight. Okay, that's just what I will do next time. You're going to see all the process. You'll see what I'm talking about. But again, that's just what I decided to do. Now, we're going to dehydrate this on a very low temperature, because if you turn the temperature up too high, you're going to cook the cheese or melt the cheese. And we do not want this to melt. We just want it to dry out, right? So I did mine at about 95 degrees. So in my opinion, this is not going to be something you can do in your oven, because your oven is not going to go low enough without cooking this cheese or melting the cheese. So I did it at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 hours total. Okay. Now, if you want, I mean, if you check on your cheese in between, if you notice that it's kind of got oil on top of it, you can take a paper towel or something like that and blot the oil off. I did not do that with mine. Okay. But I did see where a lot of people do that. I did not do it with mine, and you're going to see exactly how everything came out. So that is the store-bought cheese right there. It's nice and crispy, all the things. I lined it first with a little piece of parchment paper that I got in a big old pack off of Temu, but I wasn't sure how well that would soak the oil up. So I just had another piece of regular parchment paper, and I just threw that down there. You can also use paper towels for this if you don't have parchment paper or don't want to use it. But you see, I'm trying to show you here where there's little bitty grease spots on there. And then the towel that I had, or the cheesecloth I had on there, you can see where the cheese was on the cheesecloth. See what I'm talking about with the little yellow spots, little greasy spots? So I'm going to put it on this cookie sheet. Most of the time when I dehydrate, y'all know I put it on the cookie sheet because we want it to cool down. Well, we do want it to cool down, but I also want this to let any more oil that may be still on there, I want that to come off, you know. So like I said, I just stretched it out, and you can see a little bit better where the white cheesecloth was compared to where the cheese had been laying on that one. See? So anyway, we're going to leave this on some sort of parchment paper, paper towels, or a towel if you just want to use towel, or another piece of cheesecloth. And I'm just going to let those sit there for a while to make sure that any other grease or oil or whatever you want to call it comes off of that cheese. Now, this really didn't have any on it anyway, but I'm not going to take any chances on something I'm fixing to put into a jar and seal up. Because if you put it in there and it's really oily, then your cheese is going to go bad. So then we're going to do the homemade cheese, or I say homemade, but the one we shredded at home. So you can see, if you look close, how shiny some of those pieces are right there. I'm going to hold you one up close in just a second. But that is because that oil is kind of sitting in it, because those pieces of cheese were curved. So, you know, like I said, in my opinion, don't do it with that particular cheese grater, because the cheese comes out curly. Okay, do it on something where when you grate your cheese is going to be straight. That's just my opinion, my advice, my whatever. Do how you want to, but for me, I'm going to do it with a different kind of grater next time, even though it may take me a little longer. So you can see there's quite a bit more oil on the silicone thing, and there's quite a bit more oil on this cheesecloth. I'm not sure how well you can tell it in a video, but trust me, there was a lot more oil on there because my hands were even a little bit greasy. So I'm just going to pick you up this piece right here, and don't worry, I'm going to zoom in. I know it's kind of hard when I first start doing this for you to see. But you can see in the curve of the cheese where it's like super shiny. There we go. Is that it? Yep. See how shiny that is? It's oily still. So what I decided to do with this, because it's completely dry. Like, it's dry. See, even the parts that kind of stuck together and clumped, they're not soft on the bottom. They're not bendy or anything. They're super dry. Or they're dried out. They just have a little oil sitting on top of them. And the good thing about it is, because this cheese is dry, because it's completely dehydrated, the oil isn't going to like quickly soak back into the cheese. So you have some time, you know, to get your cheese dumped out on your thing and blot some of that oil off of your cheese. So what I decided to do for this one, because like I said, it was quite a bit oilier, greasier. I'm using that interchangeably, but y'all know what I mean. See these big chunks? It's dry on the back. Like, there's no oil back there. It's super crispy, crunchy, falling apart. So I'm trying to get it all good and spread out, because at first I thought, let me spread it out. And then I started thinking, I'm not really sure how well parchment paper is going to soak up oil anyway. And then I kind of started thinking, what if it just sits on there and the parchment paper doesn't even do anything? So I got some paper towels. I know y'all probably think I'm a lunatic at this point, but like I said, because I couldn't find a lot of videos on it, I figure maybe y'all haven't been able to find a lot of videos on it either. So I'm trying to give you all the detail I can. I know I said that earlier, but I'm just, going to reiterate that. So anyway, I just blotted this with a paper towel, and surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of oil that came off on my paper towel. There were a couple of little spots. I know it's hard to see in the video, but it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. So like I said, I'm just kind of gently pressing down to try to get any oil that's on the top of that cheese. And then I thought, well, I'm going to let it sit here. But if it's sitting on top of the cheese, then just sitting here is not going to do it any good. So what I decided to do is I ended up gathering it up a little bit into sort of the middle of the pan. And then I just laid the paper towels on top of it, because the top up there is what we need to get the oil off of. Because if it's on the bottom, it'll be down there on the parchment paper, but we need something to get off what's on the top. It's really late at night, so I hope I'm making sense. So anyway, and don't worry about crushing it. If you crush it up a little bit, it'll be fine. We're gonna powder that anyway. So then I just set the other cookie sheet on top to give it a little bit of weight, and then I'm just showing y'all here how these are just super, snappy and completely dried out. So then what I'm gonna do is just put these in a jar. Now I'm gonna put this cheese right here in a jar just like it is shredded. You can rehydrate this shredded cheese, okay? Now, I did this initially because I wanted to make cheese powder, because, like for my homemade macaroni and cheese and stuff. But then I saw that it actually works really well if you just leave it shredded like this in your jar. And if you just take it out of your jar, add a little bit of water to it, and just let it sit either in the refrigerator for a couple hours or something, it will rehydrate just like it looked before you dehydrated it, and it melts exactly the same. So I decided that I would have a jar of the regular shredded cheese on the shelf, and I'm going to do some powdered cheese. And these will store, like I said, again, I had a hard time finding any information on this because most people won't do this for some reason. So at least at least videos that made sense to me. Let me clarify that. There are some videos out there, but the ones that made the most sense to me, I had a hard time finding that. Okay. So anyway, from what I have seen though, on a couple of things, is this will last as long as you get it good and dry, get the oil off of it and everything. It will last about a year. It's not good for like super long-term storage, but if you put a little oxygen absorber or a moisture absorber in there and vacuum seal these, they'll be good for about a year. Okay. So, but again, this is my first time making it, so that is information I'm giving you that I got from somewhere else, and I can't vouch for that. So do with that information what you will. I would just, test it yourself. Maybe make a small batch, use it as needed, and then have another little jar that you store for a long amount of time just to see how long it lasts. So I put this in my little Ninja blender, and I pulsed it a couple of times because, the blades get hot when they blend, and we don't want this cheese to get hot. So I just pulsed it a few times. The pulse takes forever on this thing, by the way, as you can see. But I pulsed it just a couple of times, and then I ran it, like constantly you see me doing now. And that's it. You have powdered cheese. Now, I will say, like the stuff you buy in the jar, or like the stuff you've seen me use before, like in the macaroni and cheese, is a super fine powdered cheese. You can do that, but you would need like a little coffee bean grinder, you know what I mean? Like a spice grinder or something. And I wasn't too concerned about that, so I just left it the way it was. I'll hold it close in just a second so y'all can see it. And I started to put this into this little 8-ounce jar, and then I realized I didn't even have that much. It shrunk down so much when we powdered it that I got this little tiny 4-ounce jar, and it fit perfectly into this jar. So you can make as little or as much of this as you want, and just store it in your jar. Like I said, you want to make sure that it is good and dry. If you have any concerns about it still having a little oil on it, once you powder it like this, go ahead and put it back in your dehydrator and just let it dehydrate for a couple of hours just to make sure there's no oil left, if you're concerned about that. But that's it, y'all. We did it. We made our own homemade cheese powder. So now all these recipes I've done that call for cheese powder, once I use up what I already have bought, I'm going to just make my own because it was super simple. It didn't even take as long to dehydrate as a lot of the other things that I've dehydrated. It's super quick because they're little tiny pieces, right? And you can do any kind of cheese you want to. I mean, any kind of cheese you can shred or whatever. And, some cheeses, depending on how big your shreds are, it may take a little longer. It may not take as long. But, now we know how to do it, y'all. I was so excited about this, and I could not wait to get this video made so that I could show y'all the cheese powder, because I know we've been talking about it for a while. But anyway, here it is, y'all. But that is all I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.